All right, well, thank you, Steve. So today, I had a challenge. Are we good? Can everybody hear me? Good. All right, so I think all of us in this room today have a different level of experience and expertise when it comes to digital marketing, online marketing, anything internet marketing, okay? So first, I had to figure out a topic because my background is more, I have a degree in psychology, and I worked with affiliate marketing for actually a number of years now at this point, which sounds strange for me to say it that way, but that's true. So while I consider myself an entry-level expert, I know that I still have enough tips and tricks to share with folks that, you know, it's some things that people have thought about, never looked into enough on their own, or didn't know how to get started or where to look. So I wanted to be sure that in my talk today, at least all of you can take some actionable advice and apply it to your business. And that's a challenge because, as we just heard, everybody has kind of a different industry or a niche, right? We're not all, I'm only one digital marketer up here, and hardly anybody else is in marketing here today. And so I was wondering, can we get a show of hands? Rate yourself according to your own industry, okay? Whether you've got a marketing background or not, but whatever industry you're primarily in now that you consider yourself in, raise your hand if you think you're in the top 50th percentile, okay? You beat half of the people in your industry when it comes to applying what you know about digital marketing. Go ahead and raise your hand. Anybody? You don't think you're in the top half? Okay, so that's interesting. Hopefully, this next group, raise your hand if you are at that level where you're above the level where it's like, well, I don't need to do digital marketing, right? I don't have to worry about this. This group, raise your hand if you know the importance of digital marketing. You've tried maybe one or two things on your own, have gotten maybe okay results, but don't exactly know how to keep going forward and get, you know, the results you want. Raise your hand if you're in that group. Great. Okay, there's still some people that didn't raise their hands. This last category should make everybody feel better about themselves. I call it the grandma category, okay? My grandma, all right? Yeah. So my grandpa was a college professor for over 30 years. He had to learn how to send emails in the 90s and early 2000s at the end of his career. So he was tired of taking dictation from my grandma to send emails to the rest of the family. So they decided, let's go to a little class for, you know, senior citizens and entry level. What is a computer? This is the mouse. This is the keyboard, okay? So in the first 5 minutes of that class, though, my grandpa's sitting right next to my grandma, and it's, you know, a refresher course for him. But she sits down, and I kid you not, in the first 5 minutes, she raises her hand, and she says, I think I've broken the computer. And the instructor says, no, it's just off. Right now, all we're doing is it's a desktop, okay? The monitor's already on, it's on standby. The tower, you're just supposed to hit the big button, make that little light come on, turn green. That's all we're doing. She's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm trying to do that, but I think it's broken. Instructor's like, you know, and Grandpa's just laughing, having a hoot with it. Instructor sits down, and sure enough, Grandma crashed that computer in the first 5 minutes, okay? It was working earlier that day. But yeah, so raise your hand if you're in the grandma category, though. Okay, that should be nobody. So if you're not in the grandma category, I think you can get some value today, okay? So I'm actually going to start out with something. I've never done this before. This is going to be an interesting experiment. I believe in the scientific method, and all that is just optic. Okay, that's an easy way, acronym, you can remember that. Observe, predict, test, interpret, communicate. If you follow those steps, and they kind of feed back into each other and they go around, if you follow those steps, okay, and it doesn't have to be a big written, peer-reviewed journal article at the end of that, as long as you're applying those steps, okay, you're a scientist. That's all we do, all right? Especially when it comes to social science things, those things are a little squishier, a little softer, a little harder to quantify sometimes, and sometimes you can use your intuition to just kind of know things, right? You see something out in the environment and you're just like, oh, okay, I observed this, I predict this would happen, I'm going to go test it. Maybe you're just still observing, maybe you're making some things happen to fall on one side or the other of what you think will happen, your prediction, right? And then you interpret, well, hey, did I make this happen? Did this happen because of this or not? Right? That's all science is. So we're going to do a science experiment here to start, and I'm going to need 5 brave volunteers. And don't worry, this is a very positive, safe, supportive environment. You're going to get some value out of it. And whether we succeed or fail today, right, we're still going to learn. So can I get 5 volunteers? If you can move your arm, you can come up here and participate. No worries. Great. Renee, thank you. Doris, thank you. Graham, perfect. Thank you. 2 more. Jeff, thank you. All right, thank you. Very good. All right. So just in a line here. That's good. That's good. All right. Yep. Face the audience. Wave everybody. All right. All right. All right. So in the audience, feel free to participate if you'd like on your own. You can participate or you can just observe, whatever you feel most comfortable doing, but we're all going to learn something regardless. All right. So you 5 up here. Oh, why did you do this? This is oof. Okay. So this is the fun part. I want all of you to focus your attention on my left ear. Okay? That sounds simple enough? All right, so while I'm talking, keep your attention on my left ear no matter where I'm going. All right? Now, as you've got your consciousness and your focus and your attention on my left ear, I want you to raise your right hand. Okay, I want you to touch your index finger to your thumb. All the other 3 fingers, they can be extended, they can be closed, it does not matter, but your attention had better still be on my left ear. Okay? Now, while your index and thumb are touching each other, I want you to hold it on your cheek. All right? And you are going to copy my movements with just your index finger and your thumb and extend your hand and arm and fingers and all that stuff as you see fit, but make sure that your index finger and your thumb copy exactly what I do. Okay? That's it. And so we're going to extend, and we're going to go to the cheek, and we're going to extend, cheek. There we go. Extend, chin. All right. Did we see that on camera? How many people went back to their cheek instead of their chin? Very good. Very good. That was it. All right. Round of applause, and we'll discuss this in a little bit. That was great. Thank you. That was harmless, right? That was fun. All right. So what do we think we learned here? Did anybody think they couldn't touch their index finger to their thumb before today? And we learned that. Did we learn that? Okay. What do we think the lesson was here? I thought this was fascinating because we had Graham up here, we had Jeff up here. You know, those are different cultures, right? That's an interesting thing, right? And yet we're all human. Okay, I didn't pay enough attention to see all 5 at the same time, but on camera we can see that on replay. How many people that last time when I said chin instead of cheek, how many people did one of these or still went back to cheek, right? That is the underlying, okay, human element that we want to tap into with our marketing. Does that make sense? And let's go on. This is a little bit of a squishy subject. Might be a little uncomfortable for some folks, you know, to wrap their heads around. That's why I wanted a very visual demonstration that we could all do and see right in front of us. So, does anybody know what state of consciousness people were in when they were up here going through this? Okay? Have you guys heard the term state of consciousness? Okay, maybe we hear that in terms more like drugs or like, you know, psychedelics or hallucinogens. That's true that it applies to there, okay? But let's not get woo-wooed out by that because it also just applies to higher functioning states of consciousness. There's higher and lower functioning states, right? And this is important to consider because let's think about where are we meeting people when they're online? How functioning are they? Okay, we've got a couple options here. Are they headhunting? Are they out on a mission? Are they trying to get a task done? When they're home in their pajamas, are they trying to apply to a job? Are they trying to get some work done, send in some freelance or remote work? Are they trying to find that one piece of information on how to get the perfect brownie recipe, right? What are they trying to do most of the time when they're just relaxing in their pajamas at home? Or are they closer to just kind of vegging out, right? They're just scrolling. Okay, maybe it's commercial break and they're just, I want to kill time, I don't want to watch those commercials, so I'm just going to scroll through these commercials. You know, what are they doing? Okay? Now, we kind of associate positive connotations with higher functioning state of consciousness and then negative connotations with lower functioning state of consciousness, but I want to separate right now that lower functioning isn't a bad thing, okay? How many of you have ever gone on a road trip for longer than an hour? Right. And so if you drove yourself, okay, or even if you're a passenger, sometimes your attention just kind of goes somewhere else, right? Highway hypnosis, okay? That's actually an okay thing. That's a lower, technically speaking, state of consciousness, and yet it serves a very important function, right? It speeds up time for us, all right? There's a little bit of time travel, right? I can time travel right now. I can go 5 minutes into the future, but let me go sit in my car for 5 minutes first, right? That's all that does. And as you saw with the cheek, extend, and chin, it's the same thing. I told them, focus your attention on my ear, right? Okay, this is actually, do you know where I learned that? Anybody have a guess where I learned that? Okay, that was actually, I just copied a stage hypnotist, okay? So that was a light level of trance or hypnotism that we all experienced here. And that's not a big woo-woo thing, right? That was a common human element that underlies all of us, right? So every single person goes through various states of consciousness throughout the day just as they go about life. And that's an okay thing. There's higher states and there's lower states. As we saw through 5 people, they weren't all in the same state at the same time, even though they all volunteered to do this, right? They all volunteered to pay attention to the ear. They all volunteered to extend and copy, right? And I don't think I was going too fast so that you couldn't do chin at the end there, right? So, as we create our messages, we have to keep in mind when we're targeting customers, traditional advertising media had a different set of parameters. That's both strengths and weaknesses, right? So some of the strengths are you've got a limited medium, okay? You control exactly who else is competing for your customers' time and attention. Okay, let's take when I say traditional media, that's just not internet, right? You know, print, radio, TV, okay, those kind of things. Billboards too, of course. So, but in print, let's take a book, okay? Who else are you competing for that mental space? Okay, you've got maybe the jacket, all right, but usually that's going to show other books by the same author, especially if it's like one of those trilogies, right? It'll show the other books, go buy those. At most, it's going to show other books by the same publishing company, right? You're probably not going to get a bunch of ads for like cologne in a book, okay? In a magazine, however, right, you're going to get a lot of different related niches, but not the direct. Let's take, you know, like men's fashion. I don't know, is GQ still a thing? Is that men's? Sure. All right. How many times are you going to see a Victoria's Secret ad in there? While that may make sense to advertise to men that way, they're not going to get a great ROI on a Victoria's Secret ad, because the last I checked, that's probably a better place than like Cosmopolitan, right? That still caters exclusively to women's products at the end of the day, okay? So when we, and then of course we know radio and TV, you know, in commercial blocks especially, we've got 3-4 minutes of commercials on average, right? And we do pare it down based on demographic, time of day that's interested in that content, right? So your football game commercials are going to be a lot different than your daily soap opera commercials, okay? We kind of know that, all right? Now, when it comes to online, though, who are you competing with? Who are you competing with? Are you just competing with people that are targeting 18 to 30-year-olds, okay, males maybe, right? And then at this time of day, right? Are you competing with people that are just clicking on this blog article, okay? They want to see those banner ads on the top and side and maybe the little pop-up for an email capture. Are you competing with just people that visit only that blog, that are only interested in that blog? Okay, it's a totally different world. You're competing with everybody all the time, okay, for that little snippet of attention, right? So it's very valuable if you can meet people where they're receptive to your message, okay? All the volunteers that came up today, they were receptive enough. There was a filtering process there. There was a type of funnel. Out of everybody here, you know, we didn't have 5 hands shoot up right away for my volunteers, did we? Okay. And that's a good thing, though. When you've got your product or service, you want to filter through who those highest likelihood buyers are going to be, right? Your highest conversion likelihood, okay? And so when you create your funnels, that opening message has to be jarring enough that it kind of naturally sifts through and shakes out people that, well, these guys are more likely prospects, these guys are less likely. Okay, so the 5 volunteers, that helps sort through. We got people that ended up standing up here, right? They bought that pitch, right? Now, once they were up here, we saw another layer of filtration go through, okay? There were people that followed the instructions, okay? And there were people that were attempting to follow the instructions. And yet, how many people, right, did the chin at the end versus the cheek? So even if you give them kind of clear instructions, right, or you think you're giving them clear instructions, there can still be some fallout, right? There can be some people that just, they've got the item in their shopping cart and yet they'll never buy, okay? So we want to be very, very deliberate in how we craft our offers to folks and where we meet them initially, that beginning of your funnel, and that's my focus today, because I had to be sure to pick, you know, just one little area, and hopefully this gives you the most bang for your buck, and it's free, so I mean, I'm confident about that guarantee. So when we meet people, the image on your ad online, okay, is the same level of importance as body language in person. I want that to sink in, okay? Because if you've ever heard some of those speaking percentages that kind of throw around loosely, it's like 80% of your message is your body language, right? That's the same level of weight your image carries online, okay? That's how important it is. Same thing with the tone of voice is more like, you know, your 10 to 15% level, and then the actual content is like 5% of what you mean. Same thing on your internet funnels, okay? You've got 80% is your opening image, okay? Because when you're competing with folks, you're not just competing with other competitors in that same niche or a very limited range of competition, okay, like your book covers, right? You're competing with, and this is an interesting thing too that's often overlooked, are you just competing with advertisers? No, no. What else are we competing with?
Everything, all the noise.
Well, it's everybody's friends, right? It's their families. What's more important to us than our friends and family, right? Our natural interests. Like if we have all those Facebook pages full of our sports teams, you know, cute cats, cute dogs, right? And I'll single out guys, but just half of the planet's population, right? We've got 2.4 billion people on Facebook now that are monthly users. Did you know that? That's a third of the world, okay? Half of them, roughly, are probably guys, right? What's going to get a guy's attention most of the time? Girls in bikinis, right? That's who you're competing with. And those are free. They're a click away. They're already seeking them out, right? And I don't know what the female equivalent is of that. Maybe it's cute cats and dogs, right? But that's what you're competing with. You have to be more enticing than a dog in a bikini, right? So your image, let's take it. If you are a restaurant, do you think you should opt for the traditional, perfectly plated photograph of your food on a dish? Okay? Because how many of your competitors are going to be doing that exact same thing? It's a perfectly staged photo. In focus, you've got a beautiful spread out there, all right? But how many people are actually going to click on an image where it's like, oh yeah, that looks real interesting. That's more important than a dog in a bikini, right? So maybe if you've got a restaurant, maybe you should think your image should be, well, we host birthday parties and we like to get our party room reserved a little more. Let's throw a big old party, get some pictures of that, and let's have balloons and streamers and kids having fun and stuff. That's not the same image you'd have for normally what people might consider, like a business meeting room, right? If that's what you're trying to rent out, maybe you want to expand into the party space. That's a little bit better ad in your local space, right? See how that's still relevant enough to your end product, and yet it's incongruent enough with what people expect a restaurant's ad to be. That's starting to think in the right direction. Okay, that's starting to think in the right direction. Similarly, if you're a party store, right, and you want to show, it's like, well, typically you got the kids in hats and little balloons and fun piñatas, whatever. Maybe you should show a smiling mom with a trash bag, okay? And you're advertising, we take care of the mess, right? You don't have to worry about it. We host it for you, or we get you the connections where they set up and tear down for you, and you've got a smiling mom at the end of the day, right? Now, what if you're a trash collecting company, waste disposal company? Okay, do you want the smiling mom and trash? Or do you want to zoom in on like your compost pile and it looks nice, you got a little plant growing out of it, but to separate yourself in the waste disposal industry as somebody who is environmentally responsible, right? Suddenly you're the green company, right? That's what you want to think. It's got to be disruptive enough, right? Just like a call for volunteers, that's disruptive enough. How many people came here today expecting to stand up and do something in front of people? Did anybody besides me? Steve? Yeah. So that's why that was disruptive enough from your expectations, right? You expected to just be able to sit back and digest the information, right? Fair enough? So when you shake people out of kind of that hypnotic trance as they're scrolling through on their media, you got to make sure that your first, it's your foot in the door, right? It's that image. That's 80%, okay? That's what you need to bet all your chips on. You've got to get people going, whoa, wait, let's go back. What was that? That looks like fun. I wasn't expecting fun here. I'm not supposed to see this right now. I need to click through on this, right? And that's where your first image needs to be disruptive enough, and the rest of your funnel does need to get increasingly congruent with your brand, your image, and your final end product so that it actually logically flows and you're holding their hand throughout that funnel, okay? And there's a whole art form to that, and it is a science too, but you'll see your KPIs as you get people sifted through, you can get a highly functioning funnel. So you've got your ideal clients always just feeding right into your ad funnels, okay, into your sales funnels, all right? And that's something that I think there's a major disconnect in people that come from the traditional advertising world. Because, for example, ads I've run on Facebook have beaten companies like Walmart, okay, as far as engagement ratio. Because they'll spend, I've reverse engineered probably their approximate ad budget, they could be spending $200,000 to $500,000 on these campaigns, and yet me with $10 got more engagement, okay? Because I understood, what Walmart does, they may not even use a picture, they'll use the video ad, right? And it's paused on like a real blurry frame. That's a little incongruent from what you expect. You expect a clear photo, but it's not interesting, right? Your mind can't make fun of, like any kind of sense. What is going on in this frame if it's all blurred out, right? Similarly, if we were going to do an image for this talk, you're probably not going to want me, because I'm a weird looking dude in the middle, okay, with the background blurred out. You're going to want to have something more incongruent, like maybe something with the building, you get a logo crashing into the building, something weird, something goofy. Okay, one of the best ads I ever saw in affiliate marketing, and I don't want to give away, I thought about having some pictures that I'd print out and give to you guys, but that's kind of giving away the secret sauce for those marketers. So I was like, well, what can I do? And I'm going to talk about diapers. That's my middle ground here. Yeah, it was a diaper. This is what the ad was. It was a diaper. And in the diaper, it wasn't gross, but it was this blue, if you imagine kind of like the sidewalk salt that you spread around, so it's like blue sidewalk salt in the diaper. I have no idea what they were selling, and yet I was compelled to click on it because it was on Facebook, and I'm like, what on earth is this? You know, and it was enough of a question mark in my mind. People's subconscious always work to resolve issues. You're always working to figure out, well, what's the point of this, right? The look on a lot of your faces are like, well, why is this guy still up here talking, right? You're staying here because you want to resolve some of those conflicts in your mind. So the more conflicts you can create in your ad message at the beginning, and the more you can tease throughout your funnel, and the more you can slightly resolve, right? And if you promise at the end, it's like, hey, if you do business with us, we're going to resolve all these conflicts, right? That's that emotional ride that makes people actually genuinely happy. And of course, you have to have a product that works and does what it says it does, but that's the sales process. That's really it. You've got to first shake loose the emotions that create that urge in folks. It's like, I desire to solve this, to be pain-free, to be worry-free, to be happier than I am right now. But if people are just vegging out, scrolling around, how much pain are they in, right? They're just kind of neutral. They're just kind of going through the motions. They're just kind of like this, right? You got to light a little bit of a fire, get a spark under them, so you can beat out, you know, dogs and girls in bikinis and all that stuff. Okay, so that was kind of, did that make enough sense? Do you understand how you can take that? You can apply this to your email marketing campaigns, right? So if you've got a list, what's your headline going to be? That's kind of that image equivalent, right? The body of your email is important, but people probably aren't going to click on your email unless that subject line is something really important. People know that, right? You know, I think it's this one weird trick or these 5 little tips, right? Or inside, we've got this gift for you. You know, that's why those email lines, that copy is crafted in such a way. It's that equivalent of, well, most of the time my email inbox is just full of weekly newsletter update, right? Or here's what's happening today, or, you know, today's headlines. They're not super exciting, right? You can tell the difference between some really targeted, tailored messages and the run-of-the-mill, well, they're phoning it in, here's just what I got to get done today, and this was the checklist. Okay, so I hope that I provide a little bit of value. I could go on forever about a lot of these different things, but I wanted this to be something that you could retain for a long period of time, hence the demonstration, get a little hands-on engagement. But does anybody have any questions? Because this hopefully got your minds going a little bit along these lines. Yeah, does anybody have any questions that try to stump me? Yeah.
That you've stressed that opening image is so important to get people engaged and interested. Is it important that you test that so that you test several different images to see which one pulls better? For example, in MailChimp that we use for our email, you can do an A/B test. So
Yes.
you can use one headline and then use an alternate headline.
Yes.
Test to see which one pulls better, and then send that headline to the bulk of your list. Can you do that with an image in Facebook?
Absolutely. That is super, super, super important. In fact, it's required. I'd say it's required. The best you can do when you're selecting or generating your images, the best you can do is guess, is this going to, you know, pattern interrupt folks, if you've heard that phrase before? Is this going to be enticing enough to them? But absolutely, you need, and Facebook has it built into their platform. There's other third-party providers that have really amped to put it on roids, how you can do your testing, and that's what I was talking about, scientific method, right? You absolutely do need to be split testing all your results, because it would surprise you. You might think it's like, hey, people are going to like this goofy diaper with blue stuff in it, okay? But if everybody starts, yeah, people click on it like crazy, but if everybody starts reporting your ad too, because it's so divisive, it's actually too disruptive, it's too disturbing, your ad's going to get shut down and so will your account eventually, right? So you absolutely do need to be testing. That was a good question, yes, absolutely. All right, anything else? We've got anything to do with, you know, consumer psychology too. I love addressing these things because, yeah.
I'd just like to know more about you. You said you have a degree in psychology.
Yep.
And you transitioned here, so
Sure.
tell me more about you and what you do and why you want to be here to tell us
Oh,
about
sure,
it.
sure. Well, I'm nobody important. But that's what I grew up with a family full of teachers and preachers. So our family reunions, we're also like prohibitionists, historically speaking, so we would just lecture each other, like family get-togethers. That was my background. But yeah, I didn't know it that at the time. I was just always observing people, because I'd shake hands, like my dad was a preacher, and I'd shake hands at the end of services with them and just, you know, interact with people. And so from age 2, I was having full-blown conversations with adults, you know, as we'd deliver communion or whatever. So I always had a natural interest and aptitude for interacting with people, but also meeting them, you know, because you see people in a lot of different headspaces. You know, we've got weddings and funerals, right? And so you see people at all walks of life, all ages, and throughout some of the most trying times, some of the best times, you know, and then just whatever times, right, the times. So when I went to college, I was still undecided, but I was actually initially interested in theater. But then I quickly transitioned to psychology. There's a rock star professor there. And I took literally every single applied psychology class. There's 2 tracks. There's pure and applied. And pure is more your quantitative neuroscience is taking over that side too. They think it's the hard facts of psychology, whatever that is. But applied, that's what I was always interested in. I wanted the functional results. I like self-improvement things, and I wanted to know the cool tips and tricks, you know, that it's like, well, this is how people are. You know, I want to know myself and want to know others. So I went and took all those applied track except for like the clinical and counseling, because I was like, I don't want to do that. I know I didn't want to do that. But everything else, and that was an unfortunate thing I realized, is I was like, they're the ones that taught me the scientific method. And yet, when it came time for my senior thesis, they told me, well, you can't do that. And there was never a good I wanted to study IQ stuff, and they're like, well, you can't do that. I'm like, this is the foundation of psychology. In 1879, Wilhelm Wundt in Leipzig, Germany, right? They were doing reaction time tests, okay? And they were relating that. Of course, eugenics was a big thing back then, but it was IQ testing, and that's some of the most rigorous research ever done, still to this day, in academic psychology. All right, and they're just like, well, we don't study IQ anymore. Don't do it. And I was like, really? So I was a little disrupted by that. But how I ended up here was that attitude where I'm like, well, I'm not going to take that for an answer. Like, I still studied that on my own. You know, I took like Mensa's research journals. You know, I look at those kind of things and I test my own things. You can actually increase IQ. If anybody's interested in that, ask me about that. It's a myth that IQ is fixed, okay, whether from nature or nurture. You can actually increase it. That's actually published from Minnesota, I think. That University of Minnesota, the guy published it there. But anyway, I opened my mind up. You know, psychology almost taught me more of what not to look at for answers. It's the business world that has the actual answers for folks. I think it was Jeff was telling me, it's a lot of the military code that does like machine learning AI stuff on predictive behaviors of people. They borrow APIs from marketers, right? Because where the dollars are, that's where you've got to have good intel, right? And if the military, well, they're talking about life and death situations all the time there. If they're going to bet their technology on marketing, I'm like, well, there's something to it, right? So that's kind of where it was more of a natural fit for me, because it's always the drive for continual improvement. Does that answer your question a little bit more about me, or?
That answers my question about you now. What
Sure.
is your business?
So my business is still, it is a digital marketing agency, and I do that a little differently. I'm like, I know that's a super original idea. I found things, like I said, in affiliate marketing that work very well, and that's what I'm looking to fund, you know, through my other income streams. But I've
Define affiliate marketing for people who may not be familiar.
Yeah, sorry, I've been saying that a lot. So it is like, there are vendors who sell products, and they are the product creators, okay? But they don't do all the sales themselves. They are happy to give very generous commissions, you know, typically 50 to 75%, sometimes as high as 90%, to anybody who sells their product for them, because the product creators typically have a back end where once somebody buys once, they've got upsells, or they have recurring sales. So that's where they keep all their profit. But affiliate marketers are those middlemen between product creators and that first wave of the initial buyers typically, and they get a very generous cut of everything they sell. And you can run paid ads to do that. They're the people that spam links in Facebook comments or YouTube comments. You know, it's like, I can't believe I quit my job and made $15,000 a month. That's an affiliate link. That's what that is. And affiliate marketing is also, if you sell on Amazon and you get, you know, your 2 or 3% from Amazon, kind of not drop shipping, but it's that if somebody buys from your link on Amazon, that's affiliate marketing too.
So you do that?
Yeah, that's my background, yeah.
And so do you have clients you can name, like success stories of a client that you can name?
No, here's how that's a good question. Here's how it works. So if you're an affiliate, you're a freelancer. And they work with hundreds or thousands depending on the size of it. But there's platforms like ClickBank, if you've heard of that. There's other what they call CPA networks, or cost per acquisition networks, okay? And then you can also do affiliate marketing. If you approach, let's say somebody that's got a really happening blog, okay, and they get tens of thousands of visitors a month, and they've got a really select targeted niche that people love to sell to, you could approach them directly and be like, hey, can I advertise on your site? And then you set up your own affiliate commission deal. So all of that falls in the realm of affiliate marketing. My background's ClickBank, so it's a lot of different vendors that I never know these guys face to face. It's the email, they have their account managers, and we get our tags, our codes, so then they just pay us on time. Like, that's the benefit of the platform taking a cut like ClickBank, because they vet everybody who's on that, vendors and affiliates. Like, they make sure that you're good to do business. So that's my background. And like I said, I'm an entry-level expert. I don't have the long and illustrious career of everything, but and that's why with my digital marketing agency, I have a fulfillment partner. Like, I would trust myself with Facebook ads, but not more than 5 clients, because I'd be burnt out time-wise. And then I wouldn't really be able to guarantee any results anywhere else. So I'm like, let me leverage somebody else's expertise, and that's what I did with my fulfillment partner. He's got over 75 subject matter experts on his team already. They've been doing it for over 15 years. And so that's who I connect people with locally. I make sure that we get best. I mean, this is an international best thing. He's got the client success stories. Pepsi, MLB teams, NFL teams. He's done a Super Bowl ad. Like, he does massive stuff. Pharmaceuticals, a lot of pharmaceuticals. Like, he does big time stuff. So that's what I'm setting up right now. Yeah. Is that good? Yeah. So.
Any other questions for
Yeah.
Luke?
Are you familiar with Andy Andrews? He's very along the same lines of you think. You're thinking that he's an observer, and he thinks outside the box because of his observations, and he's very, very funny.
Good. Remind me of that. I will write that. Andy Andrews. Andy Andrews. All right. Thank you. No, that's great. I always love listening to. I study a lot of books and influencer type stuff, and make sure that I like to imitate or take the best ideas from like-minded folks.
He's very similar in ideas, because I just heard a talk last week with him and on brand builders, which you might check out too.
Perfect.
Because they're talking about along the lines
Yeah.
of what you're talking.
We absolutely need to connect on that. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah.
What do you feel right now is the next best platform to be advertising on outside of Facebook? Because I'm finding that people that are in their early 20s are not even on Facebook. So in 10 years,
true.
is that even going to be relevant enough for us advertising? I know marketing world is changing constantly.
Right.
But instead of putting all your eggs in one basket, where else should I be branching out to with my marketing dollars?
Probably shouldn't. Well, it depends what your marketing budget is, of course, as far as eggs in a basket. You should always have your hands in all the baskets, right? But that's a really good question. You're noticing, and I think it's an open secret, people in my age range, we are leaving Facebook because we have people in our parents' and grandparents' face range, typing in all caps, "How are you today?" right? And other things, it's just not cool anymore. And that is the nature of the internet. I think a generation on the internet is about every 2 years, right? And that's kind of why I was setting up with my fulfillment partner. He evolved with the internet. Like, he did email marketing before there was Facebook, then he added on all the other stuff, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm not going to keep evolving with it, but there are people who get your analysts on it and they evolve with the internet. As far as, I don't want to commit to saying one platform is the next, are you saying the next Facebook or just the next best alternative?
Just the next best. Like, where else can I be? One of the first.
And
Is that
right.
TikTok? Is that Visto? Is that?
And see, how do we know TikTok isn't Vine? Right? Does anybody remember Vine? That used to be a thing and now it's gone. Okay? That is kind of the risk. I don't want to not answer your question, but what I think the better answer is think about trends, right? Do you guys remember fidget spinners? Okay? How well are they doing right now? Okay? How well were those first adopters of it, right? Similarly, like, how are we doing, now this is a little bit different and bigger, but the CBD industry, right? How is that going? Okay, so as you see these trends and you're thinking the right way, okay, but your final question is, well, what's the next best platform to get on? I'd still say, what's the best platform today? Because that's what you can worry about. The next best platform tomorrow will make itself known, okay? We kind of knew when fidget spinners was a big deal, you could still join that wave, right, of growth and that bubble. You could still join when it was here, right before. So we knew about it enough. And that's kind of the sweet spot. You probably don't want to be the early adopter at that very early stage, because then you might run into, it's like, well, if I dump my entire business model and I bet it on we're a Vine exclusive company, I hope you had a good run for a couple of years, right? So I think the better shift is make sure that you're a little bit bigger ticket industry, right? So focus on what aspects of social connection are they going to like? Are they the type that want to go to a rave, or are they the type that want to go and have a bridge party, right? So platforms that cater to that. Does that make sense? Because I know there's like, have you guys had any of those neighborhood groups, those websites like Nextdoor? Has anybody heard of those? I think those are actually a really good kind of, that's a very targeted thing geographically. It's a fun, supportive environment. So things like that, don't think as big as Facebook would be that, right? Make sure it's an established trend, and then really dial in for whatever it is you're doing. Make sure that's dialed into your niche and your target demos. Does that make sense? Is that good enough? Good. Yep.
Okay, one more quick question.
Sorry.
Well, one of the people I follow on Facebook and otherwise, he's saying go away from Facebook because Facebook keeps changing left and right and you have no control. He says email is still the best, most solid, because you have more control over your content and everything. You don't have somebody coming in and deleting you or putting you on hold or whatever. So he says that, and I don't know if that's what you recommend, that email is still the best, and with your quirky tags to look at me.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
you have to do,
Right.
because Facebook, again, the age that's no longer following it might not be your target area. Plus, they can do whatever they want with it, and you know, I had stuff that showed up that should have showed up right away, and it was, you know, a week ago, and it's like,
Right. So again, that's kind of that's the mentality shift of all eggs in one basket kind of thing. It doesn't have to be either or. Change your allocations, right? I always recommend a multi-channel approach, because another kind of overlooked thing is a personalized app for your business, right? That's a perfect, you know, thing to integrate into your model, because you've got piping hot leads, and if you can have your e-commerce and fulfillment on there, just get purchases on it, that's perfect. And then obviously you got to have an email for your receipts, and then you feed them into your email funnel, right? Let me ask, does that guy sell a course on how to be better at email marketing?
no.
Okay, so he's our, I was gonna say, okay, because that's also one of those angles. Keep that in mind from your source, like what's their angle, really analyze that author, you know. But I'd still say that it's not the end times for Facebook. Facebook is changing. This is very true, especially from the advertisers. And I will say this real quick. Facebook cares, number one, not about profit, they care about user experience. So they're gonna be around for a long time because they prioritize user experience above all else. They kick out advertisers that spend $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 per day regularly. They ban those accounts without even an appeal process regularly, okay? Because they care about user experience, number one, all right? And they're focused on making sure that they still say they're the biggest network and they want to stay around forever. They're just massive. They are kind of too big to fail when it comes to that thing. All right, and you know, they own Instagram. Like they're here to stay. They will change though. You're absolutely right. So you're gonna have to shift what you allocate to Facebook and how you do things on Facebook, but you should never just, I'm never gonna be on Facebook. That's probably a mistake that way too. All right.
Thank you.
Well, Luke, thank you so much. That was fascinating.
Good.
Please hang around. Come up and ask him more questions. If you have questions about how he might be able to help your business, I'm sure he's available to talk.
Yep.
As a thank you, we'd like to present you with a Focus Suite mug.
Perfect. Thank you.
And so thank you for being here today and supplying us with such delicious goodies.
All right.
Hope to see you next week. There's no need to run off. Hang around as long as you like. Take a look at who has offices up here in the Focus Suites, and come up and ask Luke more questions if you have. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You bet.